All right, Year 12 Edexcel business students, welcome. In this explainer, we're going to get a proper grip on Theme 1, drilling down into demand and supply. We're going to cover all the core theory, for sure, but way more importantly, we'll break down exactly how you can apply these ideas to really nail those exam questions and get the top marks. By the end of this, you'll have a rock-solid foundation for one of the most important topics in the course. So, here's the game plan. We're going to start by building up our understanding of demand. You know, what the curve actually means and what makes it move. Then we'll put that knowledge to the test with a real exam-style case study. After that, we'll do the exact same thing for supply, making sure you know both sides of the market inside and out. Let's get straight into it. First up, let's build our understanding of demand right from the very beginning, starting with the core definition that you absolutely have to know. Okay, let's nail this definition down because it's so important. Demand has two absolutely crucial parts: willingness and ability. For what we call effective demand to exist, a consumer has to both want the product and, this is the key part, have the money, the purchasing power to actually buy it. Just wanting something isn't enough in the world of economics. That's a distinction you have to make clear in your answers. What you're looking at here is a demand schedule. It's basically the raw data that we use to draw the demand curve. Now, just look at the relationship. At a high price, say £2.50, only 20,000 kilograms are demanded. But as that price drops, look what happens. The quantity people want to buy shoots up. This inverse relationship is fundamental. It's also based on a principle called ceteris paribus. It's a Latin phrase, but all it means is all other things being equal. We're just assuming for now that only the price is changing, so we can see its effect clearly. We'll get to what happens when other things change in just a moment. And here is where we turn that table of numbers into a powerful visual model. By plotting each of those price and quantity points onto a graph, we create this classic downward-sloping demand curve. It's such a useful way to see, at a glance, that inverse relationship between price and the quantity demanded. It's a tool we're going to use a lot. Okay, this slide right here is critical for your exams. You have got to understand the difference between a movement along the curve and a shift of the entire curve. It's simple when you get it. A change in the price of the product itself only causes a movement along the existing curve. Price goes up, demand contracts. Price goes down, demand extends. But if any other factor changes, anything that's not the price, the whole curve moves to a new position. Let's look at what those other factors are. So now let's dive into those factors that cause the entire demand curve to shift. These are what we call the non-price determinants of demand. A shift to the right means more is demanded at every single price, while a shift to the left means less is demanded. And here they are, the 7 key factors that can shift that demand curve. We've got the prices of other goods, both substitutes and complements, changes in how much money consumers have, simple changes in fashion and tastes, the power of marketing and branding, shifts in the population or demographics, big external shocks like a pandemic or a recession, and finally, seasonality. Let's just zoom in on a couple of these. Yeah, changes in income have a really interesting effect. So for most things, what we call normal goods, when people's incomes go up, demand goes up too. Think about things like holidays or new cars. But for inferior goods, the opposite happens. As people get richer, they might stop buying the supermarket's own label pasta and switch to a more premium brand. So demand for that cheaper option actually falls. And this just shows you the insane real-world power of marketing. Businesses are not passive. They don't just sit back and accept demand for what it is. They actively try to shape it. A company like Procter & Gamble spending over $7 billion in a single year, they're doing that for one reason: to shift the demand curve for their products to the right, build that brand loyalty, and get you to buy more at every price. Right, that's the theory covered. Now, let's do what you have to do in an exam and actually apply it. We're going to look at a case study about an aged care provider in Australia called the Global Care Group. So, in any data response question, your first job is to pull out the key bits of information. What's the story the data is telling you? Here, we've got 2 charts. The first one shows that populations are expected to grow across Australia's big cities. Okay, interesting. But the second one, for a company providing care for the elderly, is the jackpot. It shows the demographic makeup is changing. The percentage of people aged 65 and over is set to jump from 14% to 22% by 2050. That is a massive demographic trend that will have a huge impact on demand for aged care. So for question A, which asks you to draw a diagram, this right here is what a full marks answer looks like. It's not just about drawing the lines. You have to show the original demand curve, which you label D, shifting to the right to a new position, D1. Your labels are crucial: price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal. The shift itself shows that because of that big demographic change, a growing elderly population, the demand for services like those from the Global Care Group is going to increase at every single price. Now, for a big 10-mark assess question, structure is everything. You can't just throw ideas at the page. You need to pick 2 or 3 external factors and analyze them properly. And analysis means explaining the chain of events. So if you talk about a recession, you have to explain how it affects demand. A recession leads to lower incomes, which in turn reduces a family's ability to afford premium care, therefore decreasing demand. See the chain? And after you've analyzed your points, you must have a conclusion that makes a justified judgment. That means weighing up the factors and arguing which one you think is the most important, and explaining why. Fantastic! We have a really solid grip on demand now. So let's flip the coin and look at the market from the other side, from the perspective of the producer, the supplier. Okay, so here's the supply schedule for those same button mushrooms, but look closely. Notice the difference? With supply, the relationship between price and quantity is positive. It makes sense, right? As the price farmers can get for their mushrooms goes up, their incentive to grow and sell them goes up too. At just 50p, they only offer 20,000 kilos, but at £2.50, that jumps all the way to 100,000. And this is what that positive relationship looks like on a graph. The supply curve slopes upwards from left to right. It's a visual way of showing that as the market price rises, businesses are more willing and more able to offer more of their product for sale. Just like with demand, a change in price causes a movement along this curve, either an extension or a contraction of supply. And you guessed it, just like with demand, there are non-price factors that can shift the entire supply curve. These are mostly things that change a business's costs of production or their overall ability to make stuff. This is a brilliant example of how technology can totally change the game for supply. New tech like these farm bots makes production way more efficient and brings down costs. And what does that mean? It means producers can now supply more than they could before, at every single price. That's a shift of the supply curve to the right. Government actions can have a massive impact too. Think about an indirect tax like VAT. For a business, that's just an extra cost on top of everything else. Because it's suddenly more expensive to produce each item, the business is now willing to supply less at any given price. That causes the supply curve to shift to the left. And of course, a government subsidy would do the complete opposite. It would lower costs and shift the supply curve to the right. Okay, time to lock in our understanding of supply with 2 last exam-style scenarios. We'll look at the future of farming and the really complex world of the global oil market. The global oil market, this is a perfect real-world example of how a bunch of different factors can cause massive shifts in supply, which then lead to huge changes in price. This case study is all about a period from 2014 when the price of oil plummeted, and it was all because of an increase in global supply. So to get the top marks on this 10-mark question, you have to really analyze the factors that caused that increase in supply. A great answer would break each point down. For example, OPEC. They failed to agree on production cuts, which meant that a flood of oil was released onto the market. At the same time, Iran came back online as a supplier after sanctions were lifted. Then you have the tech breakthrough of fracking in the US, which unlocked enormous new reserves. And on top of all that, Russia was pumping out more oil too. Every single one of these factors helped shove the global supply curve for oil way over to the right, which is why the price fell so dramatically. So there we have it. We've seen that supply and demand are so much more than just graphs in a textbook. They are the fundamental tools we use to understand how real-world markets actually work. The key to smashing your Edexcel exam isn't just learning the diagrams. It's about getting good at applying them to case studies, just like we've done today. So get out there and practice applying these models to different markets. The next logical step, of course, is to see what happens when these 2 powerful forces of supply and demand meet.